Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grace of a Military Child in Life podcast. Military families are not like your traditional family. They are strong, brave, resilient, and some of the most incredible people I know. My name is Gracie, a U.S. Army brat, and I am your host. I am honored to be able to give military family members like myself a place for them to share their stories and experiences in the military life. Stay tuned for this week's guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Grace of a Military Child in Life. Today, I'm here with Karen, who is a Navy veteran spouse. So, Karen, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, Gracie. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. So, start by kind of telling us what it's like being a military spouse, or I should say, what was it like when your husband was serving?
I was raised conscientious objector, which means you're not for war. And it was just religious reasons because we were taught that, like it says in the Bible, don't kill your enemies. And so no one in my family ever served, So to me, when I met my husband, it was exciting because I was like, oh, someone in the military and the Navy.
It was something new.
It's something new. So like they say, ignorance is bliss. So that's a good thing because I had no idea. So I just went in blind and, it was exciting and challenging, and I learned to respect people in the military because not that my family didn't. I mean, they appreciated that they were fighting for their freedom, but to me, you don't know the whole backstory. So to me, I think if they would understand what it's like being in the military or being a spouse, that they would change their mind. So it was exciting because I'd never left California and just meeting different people from different countries. It was just exciting. I mean, we loved it. It was the best times. I mean, 13 years together, married, and 15, going through when I first met him and dating in San Diego. I mean, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting if you come into the life and have no perspective on,
I don't know
what to expect because you don't have, I was raised in a military family. My dad was a military child. My mom was a military child. Like we've got, I'm going to be fourth generation. And so it's, come from the military, line. And I couldn't imagine not being raised in a family that, is just surrounded by the military. So it's definitely different coming in.
It was a complete shock change. It was, I mean, it worked out the way it was supposed to, God always puts us on the right place at the right time. But I think I was more open to it because I didn't know anything about it. And I think sometimes people some people are like, oh, I'm not going to date anyone in the military. And I'm like, well, I never thought about it or didn't think about it. It just happened. So, it was great. I mean, my experience was great. I mean, it's hard being it, there's hard parts too. But just thinking about the whole excitement and first meeting him and being like, oh, wow. I mean, I just had so many questions. I was like a sponge because there's so much to learn. I had so many questions I didn't understand. So that part was awesome.
Right. Because it's literally learning a whole new dictionary, coming into it. Acronyms, platoon, battalion, all the different levels. And it's literally a whole new world and coming into it.
It was. I mean, it completely was. Like what's enlisted, what's warrant, what's master chief, what's senior chief. And I mean, there was so much I had to learn. So thank goodness on his first ship that his senior chief or his master chief actually has connected me and him, his wife. And so she was in it with him for like 25 years or something. So, I mean, she gave me books, she gave me stuff to read because I was just like, I have no clue what you're talking about. Like, what does this mean? What is this word? What is I had no idea.
Yeah.
So that made it exciting.
Being around those seasoned spouses, helps so much to be able to, guide new spouses through it. And then, I always love it because then as you go through the life, even as a child, you kind of learn new things from the people around you. And then when new people come in, you're able to, kind of show them the ways, teach them, and be that person to someone else.
No, completely. I mean, she was on one, and then I was the ombudsman for one of his shore commands, and we got really close with the CO and his wife. And again, they had been in it forever, and so they taught us a lot and just great times. I mean, it just seems like a dream because it's such a different life than what I had growing up, and it just, parts of it's kind of seem like a movie, you never
Yeah.
met anyone and then you get taken away and you're like, oh my gosh, a whole new world here. So
Yeah.
it was awesome. We had a great time for sure.
Yeah, especially coming from being raised in one area and living, in California. And then I always, I was raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and then moved. And you don't necessarily realize how much more world is out there until you start moving around, start exploring it. And I always love it too, because you don't necessarily you don't have to act like a tourist when you go somewhere. When you move somewhere new, you can act like a local because you become a local for,
Yes.
a couple years, and then you move somewhere else. And you I just it's different being a tourist versus being a local. And I think acting more like a local is pretty awesome.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I never had, our family never left California. Everyone stayed there. So I was the first one to move. My sister met a military man too. So we were the only ones ever to leave California. I mean, our family had been there for generations. And so that whole thing was like, oh, wow, we're moving. Like, that was a whole other thing too, because no one ever left our family. So it was a
Right.
lot of firsts,
Yeah,
a
and
lot of
especially
change.
if you don't have any other family members moving, it's hard, it's an exciting time for you, but it's kind of hard for everyone else to kind of grasp the idea of a family member moving away for the first time because you don't know what to expect. And then with military, it can often be thought of, oh, even at the spouse or child level, like, oh, it's going to be harder to get in contact with them. It's, relationships starts to, I don't think suffer is necessarily the right word, but it gets harder to keep those relationships. So I think there's so many misconceptions with it.
Yes, definitely. It's a sacrifice for sure. And so that was something that, my husband being in the military and us being, married, it was a learning experience for my family too. Like he's gone for how long and he has to be on a ship for 6 months and you don't see him. And
Right.
it was just eye-opening. I mean, not only from me, but from my family too, definitely. But we didn't move around. We just stayed at our duty station for 13 years because he
Oh, that's
knew me
awesome.
coming from my background that I mean, we both didn't think I didn't want to go anywhere else. I'm like, I never left California, all of our families there. And then to move to Florida, which was awesome because I love the beach. So that was cool.
Yeah.
And then again, he just extended on shore or ship. So we were there. We didn't move. We were there, for 13 years, which is
Yeah.
rare and unheard of. So that was a blessing
Right.
too.
No, but there are ways to not have to move, and it's you like you said, it's unheard of. You don't necessarily think about that. You think of military life, you think of active duty
Mhm.
and moving every 2 to 4 years. And then you don't necessarily realize there are families that don't move very frequently. Like my dad was in the reserve, so we didn't really move frequently either. And
That's cool.
so there's so many different aspects of the life that if you're not constantly living it and going through the motions of it, then it's like, okay, well, how do I explain this to some other people who might not understand?
No, definitely. His dad was Army and he didn't want to move a lot. That was part of it too,
Yeah,
is that he had to move every 2 or 3 years and then going into high school and stuff and then
right.
middle school where you don't fit in. So it was his decision too. He made it both mutual that he's like, no, I don't want to move. I want to stay. And then from, my background, it was just best for both of us. So it worked
Yeah.
out great.
Yeah. And it's easier at that point then for you to be able to have a career because
Mhm.
it's not easy moving around and trying to have a career at the same time because it's not like the military where they're like, oh, okay, like, we're moving you. We get it. Like,
Mhm.
we are giving you the orders. And so being able to be there for so long, you're able to have a career. You're able to get started in that.
And I think too, you establish friendships, not just, with the
Yeah.
military, but outside, like with work. Because with the work I do, and I'm still doing, I'm a physical therapist assistant. It's been 31 years. So with physical therapy, I could go anywhere.
Right.
So that part I think would be great. Probably not overseas. I don't think that would work, but it was good because we established friends with the military and then like work friends and people outside. So, we kind of had a combination. So it felt like a home where you weren't, having to move around so much and adding more extra stress because it's already difficult, as you know, and other people know it's difficult and you do have to make sacrifices. So I think being, there for so many years, it just felt like you could establish some type of friendships and relationships and not have the added stress of that constant change.
Yeah. I think it's important to have that those friendships that are military connected because they're the ones going through the life. They're the ones who understand what you're going through, when your husband's gone for so many months or weeks, and they go through it too, so they know exactly what you're experiencing. But then it's
Correct.
also important on the opposite end to have those civilian friends who don't necessarily have military connection, but like you said, you could work with them. If you were in school, you go to school with them or whatever it may be. And you
Mhm.
have those friends who have kind of been in the area for so long that they know the ins and outs. You said Florida, like hurricane season, like they know what to do during that and all of that stuff too.
Oh, girl, let me tell you about that. I totally forgot about this. Being in California, we had earthquakes. Okay, I can handle
Right.
earthquake. The hurricanes came, and I think hurricanes are more stressful because it's coming.
They
No, it's
really
not
are.
coming. You got to pack up and go. We got to go get the food. So that was a totally learning curve too. And that, I
Yeah.
mean, it was just a complete shock. So I'll take an earthquake over a hurricane any day. But
Well,
yeah, it was a
and
lot
that's
of first.
yeah, I don't think people necessarily, you think military life, sure, you think moving, but you don't necessarily think of experiencing so many different natural disasters. I mean,
Yes,
you think Oklahoma, sure, you're going to Tornado Alley, like,
for sure.
but if you've never experienced a hurricane before, like, it's the beginning of August here, like it is, hurricane season. We are currently watching a tropical storm. And so,
Mhm.
like, that's just something living in Florida, you have to be on your toes about. And then, if you're not used to it, then, like, how do you even start to prepare yourself because you don't know what you need to do? And you have so much more time to prepare for a hurricane than you do an earthquake.
Yeah, I think the earthquakes, you just kind of happens, go under the doorway or you hide under the table, then it's done. I mean, it's
Right.
trippy to feel the earth shaking. I mean, it's pretty cool, but pretty scary at the same time. You're like, holy cow. But
Yeah.
with the hurricanes, that was definitely, and the unfortunate part, I mean, the ships have to pull out because they're going to get damaged if they're in
Right.
port. So, I mean, he's out. I mean, I'm home with our newborn daughter. The power goes out. I mean, you're like, you don't know what to do. And even we had military neighbors on one side, civilians on the other. And they were so awesome because they would come check on us. I mean, you put your grill out back when you don't have power, you grill pizza, you just
Right.
kind of use whatever you have in the freezer. So, I mean, that part, it's like, here you are, leaving me, and then I'm in a store by myself and I don't know what to
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah. You
people
just get
are
thrown in.
exactly. So you have to learn how to be flexible, completely flexible, and you can't get stuck in your ways. I mean, otherwise you're not going to survive.
Yeah, because I mean, I could only imagine, I've been dealing with hurricanes for a decade now. So like,
Hmm.
I'm kind of a pro at it of, okay, well,
Yeah.
you got to watch the cone. You've got to watch, always have water, always have non-perishable items with you because you never really know. But then like, I couldn't imagine coming in. I was so young that I didn't necessarily have to worry about them when we moved
Okay.
here. And it was just, I kind of went through my teenage years of learning more and more about hurricanes when necessary. But then
Hmm.
coming in as an adult, it's like, oh, you have to completely learn everything about this, what to do with paperwork, what to bring when you evacuate, how much water you need to have, how much, food supply, and then adding a newborn on top of that too. Like, all
It's
the chaos.
craziness. Yeah, it is. I mean, like I said, we had a military family next to us, and it was perfect because when her husband was on shore duty, mine was on ship. And then
Oh,
when mine
wow.
was on shore, and so I mean, we're still friends today. Us girls just took a girl trip to Hawaii. I've known her 30 years, and we still keep in touch. So,
Yeah, that's
she still lives in the
awesome.
same house that she's still in the same house.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there's some friendships that, some people have in college that I have for life, but I think in the military, you're definitely going to find some really good friendships that you're going to have for a lifetime, definitely.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that
because
part's been
those are the ones
awesome.
you rely on.
Oh my gosh.
when your husband's
Yeah.
out,
Mhm.
like who else do you call when something happens? Because Murphy's
Mhm.
Law is going to kick in at some point.
Exactly. Yeah, we had a willow tree that fell over into our pond, and thank goodness it fell into the water, else it would have crashed into our kitchen. I mean, it's just,
Oh my
everyone
gosh.
has their hurricane stories, So,
Yeah.
and a lot of times I think, my civilian friends are like, well, aren't you mad he has to go? And I thought, well, that's kind of an odd question. Why would I
Right.
get mad? So it was an education on that side too. The friends that I had were like, well, aren't you mad that, how could he go and leave you? And I'm like, that's the job. I don't question it or get mad about it. That's just, I never even thought about that. So that
Yeah.
was, interesting part of it too.
Yeah. A lot of people say, you know, with that question, like, aren't you mad? Like, no, like, you can't be mad at the person. Like, it's a
No,
situation that and it is frustrating at times, but it's
of
not
course.
necessarily like, okay, well, I'm going to be mad at you because of the situation we're in. Like,
Hmm.
the service member has zero control over the situation most of the time. And if they do, that is a
Yes.
very, very rare occurrence. So
Yes,
they have
exactly.
no control. They can put in their 2 cents, but it's never really going to happen.
And that's something I had to learn because I like to have things in order and type in plan stuff. I'm such a
Right.
planner. And so when I met him, like, okay, we're going to do this week. And he goes, I can't. I was like, why? He goes, I have to go do this or I have duty or that. And so that took a hot minute. I mean, to kind of figure out that you just can't get up and go when you want to. So that
Right.
part was an adjustment. So like you said, and a lot of, family members, can get in fights about that because you're mad at him. But just like you said, you have to realize that that's his job. And you have
Yeah.
to be realistic that they're in charge. And so wherever they say do, you do. So
Right.
that part was a learning curve. So and you have, like I said, that's where I learned to be flexible because if you're
Yeah.
stuck in your ways, it's going to make it harder for the marriage and for the service member to do their job if they know
Right.
that you're not supporting them in that.
Right. And that's why like retention rate is hard right now
Hmm.
because military life puts so much stress on the family.
Oh
And it's
gosh,
like,
yes.
okay, well, I don't, the service member doesn't necessarily want their family to be in stressful situations like this. And so
Hmm.
it's a high turnover rate that we're experiencing now. And it's hard because there are tons of resources out there, but it's hard to find those resources for military families to make, the whole life a little bit easier. But then, there's just some things that you have to, like you said, be flexible with, be able to, just roll with the punches and go with it because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you have to learn to be adaptable. I think that's with anything in life. But to me, it seems like this is just my perspective that now with the military, it seems like things are better than when we were in because we had snail mail. When he was on
Right.
a cruise, we didn't have video. I mean, I know you guys do video now, and
Right.
like you had to number your letters. And I told my husband, I said, "Why are we numbering our letters?" He goes, "So that when they come in, you realize that letter one, and then you get letter five." He goes, "They're not going to make sense unless we number them." So
Yeah.
I thought that part was cool because you were excited to get the snail mail. And it was also confusing because if you got letter two and then you got letter eight, you're like, okay, what happened? What you said in letter two. So it's like a story, like a book, you had to wait to get, okay, no, that makes sense. Now, how about this question? Or so that part was
Yeah.
cool. I mean, I think now you have the video, it's more family friendly now
Right.
that they offer that. And I think they learned, of course, because it's just, hard on marriages, and families too. So I think they learned, and that's something that I think is awesome that they have. You can have the video, FaceTime, I guess you call it.
Yeah. And
You
it
can
is
speak to your
really cool to
family.
see, the progression of that. But it's also so crazy because I've heard, people saying the same thing of numbering the letters, like,
Yes.
because you never know which letters are going to get there first,
Mm-mm.
and then, like you said, it's a story and then it gets out of order and then you're confused and you're like, oh, but I just found this out, but then this didn't happen. And, all the pieces don't add up.
Exactly. But that was fun. I mean, that was, and of
Yeah.
course, when they would pull in, they would try and call. And then again, I mean, I think we had cell phones. I mean, I don't know how long cell phones have been around. But yeah, I mean, like he would call it at like, he would say, I'm going to be in at this time, kind of, and so be by the phone and stuff. So,
Right.
I mean, to me, it was, I guess, a little more romantic back then, I could say, because you
Yeah.
look forward to getting the letter, you look forward to getting the call. And I think that way, in my interpretation, is it makes you appreciate them and miss them more. And I mean, I don't understand how, people have relationships now when they have it for video and you can see them. So again, it keeps you closer that way too. So I guess they're just two different perspectives,
Yeah. I
you
think
know?
there's definitely positives to both.
Yeah.
Like, I love writing letters still. And I know
Oh,
my
cool.
generation does not do that very often, but I
No,
think
not at
letters are
all.
fun. And I think, it is that thing of, okay, well, you look forward to going to the mailbox every day
Hmm.
of, okay, am I going to get a letter? Am I going to have a letter today? And
Hmm.
so it's that anticipation. And then, yeah, you might be sad because you don't have a letter, but then, you're excited the next day to go back and
Hmm.
see if you have a letter. So I think, like you said, there's still definitely beauty in that.
Hmm.
And, technology is great. Like, I cannot imagine raising a family with no technology, but
No
it,
way, really?
I cannot imagine it. Like, it is just, I grew up kind of in that phase, like early 2000s, mid 2000s, kind of like,
Hmm.
okay, technology is becoming a thing.
Hmm.
I would wake up every morning and go play Webkins on the computer. Like, I would look forward to doing that. But now it's like, okay, well, if I move and have kids and like, or when I move, I should say, like, how are my kids going to be able to see my family without them having to come? So, like, video is so important in that to be able to, kind of raise my kids with my family around still. But then, I'm going to miss, I'm going to try to do letters and stuff too, because I
That's
think
good.
it's so cool still.
Yeah, that part's cool. But we had the phone, we had telephone. I mean, that's how
Yeah,
we communicated. It's just you pick up the phone, you call your family, you talk for hours.
right.
So now I don't know if people do hours on FaceTime. Maybe it's a little bit shorter
Yes.
because you're seeing them. See what I'm saying? So I think then
Right.
it nurtured different relationships because you're talking about so much more. And
Yeah.
I'm old school. I mean, I don't understand technology much, but to me, it's like, I know the younger generation, they don't like to talk on the phone. They rather text. So there's something to be said about actually having a conversation over the phone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it's such a debate, with the younger generation of, okay, well, would you rather text or would you rather call someone? And it's
Text.
like, okay, well, everyone wants to text, but
Hmm.
then like, what do you do when like, you know, my friends are like miles and like hundreds of miles away. Like, I can't
Hmm.
just like, what am I going to do when I can't hear their voice for, months on end? Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's rough.
weird. And so
Write a
it's like,
letter. You'll do it.
yes, right.
Get your feelings out.
Letters. Oh my gosh. No, I love that. And then did you guys ever, I've seen families do it too, where they send tape recordings back and forth.
No, we didn't do that. No, that's a good idea, but no, not at all. Actually, there were kind of little picture frames that would have like you could record on them, like little tiny ones.
Oh,
So when our daughter
cool.
was born, I would like do little recordings of her and like send a little pocket picture, and then the recording
Yeah.
she would push. So I didn't think about tape recorders, but I'm sure there were people that did that for sure.
Yeah.
But God, that seems so old. I mean, tape recording.
Nobody
Here I am
has
aging
tape,
myself.
You
I still
can't
have
listen
old.
to those anymore.
I still have old cassettes. I just need to find a car that has a cassette player. Right.
I really wish we would see those again. Like, I always complain about, I have like a 2023 car, but I
Okay.
always complain about it because I'm like, I don't want to push a button to close my trunk. Like, I want to actually close it myself. And if you try to
Hmm.
close it yourself, it fights you. You have to push the button. I'm
Oh
like,
my
oh,
gosh.
I don't
Yeah.
want that technology. I just want Apple CarPlay so I can see my map. I can like play my music, and that's it. It's like everything else. Technology. It's great in some aspects, but in some, I'm like, we could just keep it simple.
I hear you. Exactly. 100%.
Yes. So like, in some ways it's great. In some ways it's like, okay, like let's go back in time a few years ago, a couple decades ago, revert to what we came from, and then, to the simpler times.
Yes, I mean it was a definitely simpler time. I mean, yeah, I know technology is good and bad and it evolves, but speaking about that, I know that I had a Mars gram once and I didn't know what it was. I pick up the phone, this man's like, "Yeah, this is so and so. I have a Mars gram." I'm like, I thought he was like a shyster or something, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, I have a message, and he said my husband's rank and stuff." And I'm like, "Who are you? What is going
Yeah,
on here?" But I know that they did Mars grams back then, like if something important was, happening. So
right.
that was real interesting. I mean, I'm sure the man was like, "What is wrong with this lady?" Because I
Well,
mean,
if
a
you're
lot of people
not,
did.
yeah, you don't expect it. You don't necessarily like, you're confused. Like, what is this? What is that's going on?
Yeah, so he explained to me, he goes, we're, volunteers and then we, take messages and stuff. And then he, when they can't get through normal change, they do this. So I was like, that's cool. It's like I got a Mars gram once and now they got rid of it. I think in like 2015, the Navy got rid of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was like ancient history.
Yeah, because you don't think about that now. Like, how that was a big form of communication of,
Oh yeah.
important things go on. Like, how else are you supposed to communicate with your loved ones?
If there's like a big change or something happened, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. So he had to get flown to another ship because he had a medical emergency. So I wouldn't have known any other way. So just to
right,
kind of give me a heads up, then that's why I wasn't like getting calls if he came in port or something. So I was like, okay. So they did find ways to communicate with the family still. Just now
right.
we have more modern technology. But I thought that was cool. But the poor man had to explain to me what he was. And I was like, what are you? Who are you?
Why are you calling me? Yeah, because I mean,
Exactly.
imagine a letter would take so much longer than the phone
Exactly.
call to come through. But
Yeah,
yeah, now it's like
definitely.
you can text, even from ships, you can text and be like, hey, this is going on, or, even just having, daily conversations, like it can just happen over your phone and
That's
and
just
all you need
crazy to
is
me.
Wi-Fi. It's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy compared to what we had. Definitely. I mean, yeah, it's definitely another time, another world, it seems like.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, can you tell us about your jewelry business that you mentioned too and how you started that?
Oh yeah. Since when COVID hit, I think everybody kind of had a life-changing moment. I got let go of my physical therapy job because being in the healthcare, no one knew what was going to happen. So I like to stay busy, and I know bracelets are kind of the big thing back in 2000. So I just kind of picked it up as a hobby, just something to do with my time, while I was off for that year. And so I don't know. It wasn't a plan. It just kind of morphed. I mean, it just happened the way it was supposed to. But it's Elaine and Renee. I named it after my middle name and my daughter's middle name. So it's Elaine and
Oh, I
Renee.
love that.
And so I did too. It's like it just flowed, it was perfect. And so I just
Yeah.
do, I'd make it all handmade, stretch bracelets. I'm looking at, kind of advancing my skills, but working full time, it's kind of hard. But I use
Or
natural wood for wood diffuser bracelets. You can put essential oils on them and they're real gemstones. And then I also use gold filled beads, which is like a core of like brass or copper. And then they actually put real gold on top of it. So it's not going to tarnish
oh,
or
I
turn
love that.
green. It's not going to tarnish or turn green like something that's plated. And then I also use real sterling silver beads. And like I said, real gemstones. And then we have polymer clay, which are, just the clay that you kind of cut up. They called Heshy beads. So growing up in California, we always had the Heshy necklaces that were made out of shells. And so that kind of took me back to that. So I do some with
Yeah.
that. And then also I have some silk ribbon bracelets that I've been kind of playing with too. And just, pearls, gemstones, just kind of, and I do markets, probably at least once a month. Just with working full time, it's hard. But I'm definitely looking at getting my website going with my daughter helping me because she's a graphic design. She just graduated graphic design major. So I'm
Oh,
like, you need
awesome.
to definitely help me. So yeah, it's just having the time to do that. So
Yeah, it takes a lot of time to completely run a business, and I don't think, in 2020 we all had the time to do that. We were
hmm
doing nothing better. But I think once you get into like the business, it's like, oh, you have to do this, and then you have to do this, and then you have to do this, and then, that's just to, make your product, but then you have to push it out there. So how do you do that? And then so many different things go into doing it.
yeah, I mean, I end up loving it, and I'm not doing it as much as I want to, but just having the creativity to do that. So being in the
Yeah.
medical field, it's like one form of creativity. So when I come home, I can just kind of play with the beads and I kind of get addicted because I'm making one and then I look and I'm like, oh, those two goes good together. And oh my gosh, look at those. So I get distracted. So I'm like, okay, focus, keep it simple. But no, I love it. And I love talking to people and meeting people at markets because I'm a people person. So again, it's just something you can do for fun, a different side of creativity. And yeah, I mean, I'll keep doing it, and eventually maybe I'll retire from therapy and then do that full time. But you never know what's going to happen. But I love it and I love the people and just it's a lot of fun. So I'm enjoying myself.
No, I love that. And I love how you kind of brought, your hometown, bringing in that California, inspired pieces into it and, making it very personalized to you and what you like too.
Yeah, and again, it's just everyone kind of has their own taste, and it's like looking and like
Right.
people are like, I don't like to make the stuff that other people make, so mine's just more my style. And I know things kind of come and go, trends and stuff. And I was like, why don't you try that? I'm like, no, I'm not a trendy person like that. I'm just going to make
Yeah.
what I think is just what I think looks good to my eye. Just
Yeah.
keep it simple, just the natural, the neutrals. Nothing too crazy. But summertime, I like to add some neons, because of the '80s. There, being an '80s kid. A lot of fun, I think.
Yeah. No, I think, you say trends and it's like you start seeing the same thing over and over again. It's like
hmm
copy paste everywhere.
hmm
And, it's great, I guess, for a little while, but then it's like, okay, well, when's everyone gonna, start doing, stop looking like copy paste,
Yeah, because you can get that anywhere. But I mean, to me, I always have
Right.
people compliment, say, oh, your stuff is so unique. It's so pretty. So, I mean, I'm getting great compliments. I'm not saying, oh my gosh, you have the same as somebody else. And so to me, I've always liked things that are different when I go shopping, and I don't want the same thing someone else has. I mean, I know I guess I'm not into trends. I mean, I wear what I want and I buy what I want, and I know this isn't and that. And that's never been my thing. So I think it depends on your personality too. But then it depends on your, when you go to markets, people's feedback. What kind of feedback are they giving you? Are they like, yes, no? And then again, you just kind of modify it from there. But it's exciting. I like it.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. And then where can listeners connect with you and find out more about your business?
It's Elaine and Renee on Instagram. I don't have a Facebook yet, and I don't have online yet, which again, I'm kind of apprehensive to say I have a business because I'm not out there pushing it, right? So I guess just kind of, I'm going to have to, just really buckle down and take it a little more serious and at least get looking at getting a Shopify and then I'll set it up in there. But right now people just DM me on Instagram, be like, hey, I like this and stuff. So that's how I'm doing it. And then when I go to markets too. But I know I would have a better business model by actually getting a website. So I'm embarrassed to say that, but I'm being honest.
No, I love that. And, Instagram's great and it's a great platform to connect with people on. And,
Yeah.
You can just, again, like we said, technology has advanced so much that you can just message someone on a social media platform and, go about that route with it too.
Yes, definitely. That part I'm still learning because I'm in just being older. I would say that I'm a little apprehensive to gadgets. I always say I like people and paper, something
Yes.
that's tangible, and this
Right.
computer stuff. So that's what's holding me back because I just don't feel like I have the confidence, I would say, and be like how to do it online. I mean, I know that like in the military, you just have to learn, but I'm at the point where it kind of scares me more technology than
Yes.
being in the military, like there's people around you, guiding you, giving you, answering questions. And this, it's like, I'm just going to ask the Googles. It's like, can't someone show me how to do this? So I rather have someone show me because I'm a visual learner.
Right.
So it's just me again. I have to step out of my comfort zone and be like, okay, let's really be serious and buckle down and do this. I mean, I have great stuff, but it's not good if no one can see it or buy it.
Sometimes it just takes a little extra courage to step out of your comfort zone. And, you stepped out of your comfort zone for so long as a military spouse. So
I have. And even in the therapy world, been so many changes, during COVID and then, different jobs and different companies taking over other companies. So I've had a lot of flexibility. So now I'm like, okay, let me just chill a little bit maybe.
No, you need that sometimes for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. So the last question I want to ask you is what is a piece of advice that you would give to another military spouse?
My piece of advice as a military spouse, I would say be more patient and be more understanding. Because I know that, sometimes we want to be selfish. And I know that in the military, you can't be selfish, but even as a wife or a mother, we're always giving so much, and sometimes we want something back. But again, it's a give and take. So you can't keep numbers. You can't be like, oh, I did this 10 times and you only did this once. So to me, the thing is that put yourself in their shoes. They're gone from the family, and that stresses them out in the first place. Then they're in their position and they want to do their best to improve and rank. So if you're not, supporting that, that helps the family in general. So you need to definitely be patient and understanding.
Yes.
I would say that and of course, I mean, the love is there. That's not the thing, but you have to support them. Like if I was in my job and I wanted to increase, it's going to be a little bit harder, but then you have the benefit in the end. So you kind of have to look at it as, you pay that now or you pay later. That's always been our motto. My husband taught me that. And it's like, you grind hard, and after 20 years and now we're reaping the benefits. So it's always a give and take in any relationship, but you have to be a little more patient and understanding as a military spouse for sure.
Yes, no, I love that. And I think life in general, you have to be patient, but then add the military on top of that patience just like multiplies, and you really have to be patient throughout the life.
Oh, completely. And you can't be selfish. I mean, you can't be like, this
Right.
is my way. And the thing too is you have to be adaptable. I know we mentioned that briefly, but just real quick, it's like when they're gone, you have one lifestyle and you have a way of doing things. And then when they come home, you have another way of doing it. And that I didn't understand that in the beginning. I was like, well, I do it this way. He's like, well, I do it that way. So the thing is, that's a give and take too. And I've talked to other spouses, and as you learn as you go, like when he's gone, I don't have to cook dinner every night. I can just go and do whatever, we can stay at the beach. We don't have as much of a regimented schedule, but when he comes home, it's a little more regimented. And you have to include him or her when they come home. So you can't, it's easy to get stuck in like, okay, we're just used to doing this. And when they come home, they don't know what you've been doing or the friends that you've made. So you have to include them in what you've done when they're gone. So you can't keep that separate. And that gets in the way, because we went through that. There's like a give and take there. So
yeah,
it's definitely hard, but you have to be adaptable too.
Those reintegration periods, they can be hard. On the entire family, and just trying to adapt to them being gone and then them being home. You don't necessarily know, like, okay, well, you think that things are just going to continue on as they have been, without them there, and then they come back, and then like you said, it's like, okay, things have to change because they're back now. And then you also have to prep for them to leave again, and then what's that going to look like, and then it's that cycle, that constant cycle.
Yeah. And the main thing is, for me, I mean, being type A, I like to control things, and my husband liked to control things. So you have to be not willing, but you have to acknowledge that you can't always get your way with stuff. Like I've done this way. So like when he's gone, I do the bills. When he comes home, include him, have him do the bills. So I know there were so many women that were strong women, and I saw kind of, the relationship having a harder time, because when the husband would come home, the wife did not give up that control of so much stuff. And so we would talk, and I'm like, well, it's not fair to him because he's participating. His check is coming to the house too to pay the bills. So if he wants to pay the bills for a few or whatever, that's fine. You guys work it out. So that's something too that I saw that hurt marriages, that the wife wasn't willing to give up any sort of control, and it was her way or the highway, and I understand that you were in control when they were gone, but you have to look at, again, always the other side. There's two sides to a story, and then actually three sides: his side, her side, and the truth, right?
Right. Right.
So it's a lot. I mean, we can just spend a whole hour talking about this.
Yeah.
But
it's important to find what works for your family, because what works for someone else too is not going to work for you. And then, finding that and getting that, for your family is so important.
Yes. And everyone's different. You can learn from other people. You can talk or see examples. You're like, okay, that's a cool idea. Or, oh, no, I don't want to do that. You just have to be observant too and be like, okay, that's cool. Or, oh, no, that's not cool. So and you have to be willing to make things better too. Like this one didn't go too good. What can we do next time? So, I mean, I can just go on and on about it, but yes, there's a lot there.
Yes, absolutely. We can definitely schedule another episode and we can talk more.
You need to just put that down. That needs to be the main topic and have people talk about that for the hour, right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Karen, so much for coming on the podcast and sharing what it's like being a military spouse.
Thanks for sparking some old memories. I really appreciate it. It's been awesome, and I appreciate you inviting me and appreciate your time, Gracie. And good luck, and God bless you with all your new ventures.
Thank you.
Write those letters.
Absolutely, I will.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you for listening to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, follow, and comment. Also, be sure to check out Instagram and Facebook at Grace of a Military Child and Life for more awesome content. For information on the podcast, Military Child Bigs and Littles, GoAMCL blog, or other resources, visit www.goamcl.org. You can also email me at Gracie, that's GRACIE @GOAMCL.org with any questions or comments. To be a guest on the podcast, you can schedule it at www.goamcl.org/schedule a podcast, all one word, or contact me via social media or email. Stay tuned for the next episode where another incredible story is shared.